AI is definitely supercharging the analyst works, specifically data analysts could use it to just do their work faster. There are some talks on whether it's necessary to even study data analytics since AI is taking over. But I would say once you get more and more senior, you definitely can use it to just help you do your work more efficiently. Yeah, and get some new insights from it or even learn from it to make you an even better analyst.
We are starting a series of talking with our learners from Turing College about their experience in AI, in data, how they've been transitioning their careers, upskilling in their careers. And today with us, we have Oumi. And it's really a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
It's one of the best parts of my job, I would say, just talking with the learners, seeing the real stories behind who's learning here, what actual change the programs bring, what change you managed to do. So it's an honor to have you here. Very
happy
so much to have you. And maybe to start, could you introduce yourself? So what's your background? What did you do before Turing College? What's your education experience before Turing College as well?
Sure. So my name is Oumi. I have an educational background in economics and international business, and I worked previously in sales, in B2B sales more specifically, in cybersecurity, fintech, and SaaS companies. And during my sales career, I've loved speaking to clients and I love driving revenue for our customers and for the business where I was working. But I found myself more and more interested in how the data could make sense to drive business decisions. And that's what led me to start in the career program at Turing College.
All right. So you've started about a year ago and now are through it and using the knowledge gained daily. Is that right?
Yes, for sure. It was a very interesting experience, super enriching, lots of new knowledge, sometimes challenging, but I've loved every bit of it.
Okay. So what we want to hear today, what we want to talk about is basically what you see the industry, where you see it moving towards, how AI is changing it. So in terms of data analytics, what would you say are the biggest things you're observing today, how AI is being used and where you even see it moving towards in the near future?
Great question. I would say AI is definitely supercharging the analyst works, and specifically data analysts could use it to just do their work faster. There are some talks on whether it's necessary to even study data analytics since AI is taking over. But I would say once you get more and more senior, you definitely can use it to just help you do your work more efficiently. And get some new insights from it or even learn from it to make you an even better analyst.
Okay. Would you say the big change is making you do things faster as a data analyst with AI? Or would you say it even enables you to do completely new things, unlocks new paths for you when you use AI together with the data analyst work that you do?
I love this question. I would say both at the same time. So it does help you make your work faster. It's just does a work that you were to do before in a couple hours very quickly, but it also gives you some new insights and some new directions in your work that you might explore. So things that you wouldn't have thought about doing before.
Okay. So you mentioned that definitely makes you faster, and I constantly hear or at least read about those stories when some developer says, with the help of AI now I am a 10x developer, 20x, meaning they do things that many times faster. Do you have any specific stories of how you used AI to really make a specific task you've regularly been spending X amount of hours before and now spending 20 times less or 10 times less on that?
Yeah, definitely. I would say I've used one AI tool, for example, called Cursor, that is used for programmation. And as analysts, you have to use Python. And it was just super fascinating to see how it checks your code and how it can you can just check it in code blocks or just ask it to do some specific things, and it does it super fast, and you're able to save a lot of time.
What we've been seeing recently is that people start learning in very different ways as well. They get a problem, solve it with AI in a quick way, and then start learning more about it with AI. Have you been learning with the help of AI, even after finishing the courses here? Do you see AI as a mentor in your learning process?
Yes, definitely. I would say AI in itself sometimes had this study mode that it could become your own teacher, and it can just break down concepts to you and then go even further the more you want it to go deep into explaining something that you're stuck with. So it can definitely turn into this kind of virtual teacher when learning things. And I've definitely used it in that way at Turing College whenever I would feel stuck with a certain concept. Of course, we had lectures and we had GTLs to help us, but AI was definitely also a game changer whenever I just couldn't get something and it was able to explain it efficiently.
Mm-hmm. Do you see some main differences now between people helping you directly and AI helping you directly in terms of how they help you, in terms of even tone, how they speak with you?
There is definitely a difference. I'd say what I didn't find with AI is a little bit of a human touch and a little bit of the empathy and encouragement that you find from a peer learner or a lecturer or someone supporting you. That human-to-human connection is definitely missing when working with AI, because of course it does not get how your mood is when you're prompting something. But it does definitely help you when you get stuck into a specific idea or a concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess it even then depends on how you set up your assistant. I've heard also very interesting stories, like some people setting up their assistant to be overly supportive, which then also becomes slightly weird and annoying. And with real people, I guess, still that comes much more naturally. And I guess this leads to another question then. So definitely AI has some strengths, has some weaknesses. In terms of business context, what challenges would you say AI brings, new challenges that people now need to solve because of it?
That's a very important question. I think there are lots of security risks that could come with AI, and a lot of ethical risks. And I believe Turing College has one of the courses that covers that. And I found that course actually super relevant, because one thing we don't really know is that AI could actually retain some of information that we say about our business. So it's very important to not share some confidential information. And it could also be biased sometimes depending on historical data that it has been fed. So there are some of these ethical questions that one should be aware of when using AI.
Mm-hmm. And I guess to be aware of those questions, it's actually not such an easy thing, because you then need to even dig deeper into how AI works.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel your role as a data analyst is changing with the help of AI as well? So do you do different kind of things? Do people expect different kinds of things from you when AI is there, but also when you are a data analyst who still needs to get the final piece of work done?
I believe you're definitely expected to automate some of your work, or automating as much as you can of your work, so you can focus more on the the work that could be done manually in this case, or some of the work that definitely needs some double or triple check-in by a human. I would say there are definitely some expectations or growing expectations from businesses right now to implement AI in every job. And as an analyst, you need to figure out where AI fits in your work.
So it basically expands what's expected from a data analyst, not just getting some piece of data from an SQL database, but also optimizing things, thinking how AI fits into the whole process to make it more efficient. Okay, so now we talked that AI is being used a lot at work, and you've been learning to use it at Turing College as well. So I'm very curious to hear more about your experience here as well. Specifically, it's quite an intense course. So it requires spending a lot of time. It requires to collaborate with other people, to work on projects, to learn a lot of new concepts. How did you manage to fit all of that in? How did you find the balance between all of those areas?
I would say it was super interesting, definitely studying at Turing College. It blends perfectly theory, but also practice. You have some self-studying material that you need to go through by yourself, but also have that connection with other GTLs or STLs whenever you need help. And it's definitely holds you accountable for your progress and pushes you and challenges you to try harder. And there are also some, for example, in my case, there were lots of technical new terms and a lot of coding and learning Python, learning SQL, things that I haven't even touched before this course, since I come from a business background. And it was super empowering to just have the support and the right structure to just go through that knowledge and learn it and just master it, but also put it into practice, into a project, and get that project reviewed by a seasoned professional. Yeah, that was one of the most interesting part, I would say, about the program.
Okay, so would you say the thing that helped you most to build the practical skills would be those practical project reviews together with experts and with peers?
Yes, definitely. So those projects were, I would say, help you with practical experience, but also build your portfolio. So when you're looking for a job later on, you have something to show to recruiters that you have some hands-on experience and something that data analysts do. And that comes in very handy because those projects are so spot on into what analysts do that you almost find it relevant in any analyst job you're applying to.
Okay, and talking about the practical projects, so we have both senior team leads, experts from the industry who review your work, but after you complete the work, you review others as well. And I know you've reviewed quite a few learners yourself. How did you find that experience, stepping briefly into the shoes of a mentor during still the experience of being a learner?
I really love that experience. First off, it's very beneficial to the reviewer to give feedback and learn how to give feedback, since you will need to do that a lot in your work experience. And also it helps you reinforce your learning and see how other people approach the same problem and see how much different it is from your own problem-solving skills. So it definitely broadens your perspective into how other people can do things and how they can code differently or use some analytical skills differently. So that part is definitely super useful.
Really, really good to hear. Like when we were building this whole structure, it's exactly the kind of philosophy we wanted to have, this idea that it's not actually just you helping the other person who you're reviewing, but you're learning as well while doing it. So super nice to hear that you've experienced this as well. Okay. Also, what here with quite a few learners, and I'm just very curious whether you've experienced this yourself. So there's often this very strong sense of hype and motivation during the first month or so, and then after that, so since it is a long course, many people still start feeling that the motivation goes down a little bit. Then you need to start using just discipline to keep on learning. Did you get to a similar stage? Did you feel something similar? And if so, how did you go through it? How did you solve it?
Yeah, totally. I would say I've also experienced that. The first couple of months or maybe sprints, you're super hyped to start a new career, and you're super excited, have a lot of motivation. I guess the novelty effect kind of wears out after some time, and you have to rely now on something other than the motivation to keep pushing yourself. I would say in this case, what helped me most is just have a structure and kind of a schedule that I have in place and that I have to go through, that I cannot miss out. That for sure helped me. And you still need to find some satisfaction in winning or being successful at some of the things. One thing actually I love is the accomplishment channel on Discord. Whenever you finish a project, you just get like a congratulation.
It's really fun to look at that as well and see people reacting. Like at one point I was following that so closely and trying to make sure I add emojis to every single achievement of every learner. Don't have time for that, unfortunately, in the recent months, but yeah, even looking at that from the side is fun, so I can only imagine how fun it should be to see, as a learner, others cheering for you, rooting for your success, motivating you to move forward.
Yeah, definitely. It's just such a small thing, just a message that you receive on Discord, but whenever like you complete a project, it's kind of like, yes, I've did it, I finished this one, okay, time to get to the next one. So just these small wins and little celebration, you need to take time to kind of celebrate yourself, and that also helped me a lot during my studies.
I've actually had a discussion with an analyst recently talking just about how to prioritize features, and the conclusion we came towards was that sometimes the most simple features can actually bring almost the biggest impact. Yeah. So I'd say what you mentioned here, a simple way to celebrate together with others. It's nothing technically difficult, but it can make a huge difference to the whole learning experience.
Yeah, definitely.
So how would you say working on the practical projects change your overall outlook on what data analysis is, what's expected from a data analyst?
Projects definitely help you get a hands-on approach to how a data analyst is supposed to bring some decision making in the process. So for example, one would have thought, okay, data analyst, you just analyze data and just bring some insight, but actually you have to also think of what recommendation you can drive from those insights that you found, and whether that recommendation would drive any value for the business. So it's much more into giving an actionable insight to the business. So that was one thing that I definitely felt in the projects. STLs would focus a lot on the insights and recommendations section whenever you would finish a project. And that's something that I learned to do religiously, and that actually really shaped my way of viewing the role of data analyst.
Giving insights, actionable ones, I would say is a crucial thing that people need to start seeing as the end value. It's not the complex calculations you do, the formulas, the numbers, they are not going to have any real value if it doesn't convince the stakeholders to then eventually trust you and make some actions based on it. How would you say your understanding of the importance of soft skills changed throughout the projects, the whole course? Did you start feeling it being even more important, or did you already have this understanding even from before in your career that even in technical roles, soft skills matter just so much?
Yeah, they definitely matter. I would say I did have some sort of understanding since I come from a sales background. So soft skills, it's something communication skills is definitely something I had to work on a lot. But it is also definitely relevant for a data analyst role. Communicating those insights that we talked about, sometimes you have to do them verbally. Sometimes whenever you've created a visualization, you have to present it to the stakeholders verbally. So working on your communication skills and your soft skills is very important to explain the value out of your work and actually explain it and translate it in kind of different languages or different technical abilities depending on which stakeholders you're speaking to.
Mm-hmm. So I like that you mentioned you learned about this even from before. You took it from your previous experience in sales. I'm wondering if there's anything else, how you connected that past experience into now the data analyst role that you're in right now. Because I think many people are thinking about this transition and thinking, oh, should I just throw out my last 5, 10, 20 years of experience? But what I'm always trying to tell them is that you're not throwing that away. It becomes your strength because this unique combination of what you did before together with what you learn now actually makes you unique.
Yeah, for sure. I would say if you have years of experience, you for sure have some transferable skills. Whether it's a soft skill, a technical skill, whether it's collaboration, or there is definitely at least one transferable skills that you can apply to data analytics. And mine was definitely communication skills. So when communicating insights and presenting and writing recommendations, but also one thing that I brought from my previous experience was being consumer-centric or customer-centric when doing some analysis, and just always thinking about how can I drive that value for the customers, or how can I drive that value for the business. And I would say, yeah, that was one of the main things I brought with me.
So looking at the numbers and not just seeing numbers, but actually seeing the people that those numbers represent, empathizing with the end user.
Yes, empathy is very important.
Great. Okay, moving back a little bit to more technical skills then, what would you say would be the top 2, even 1 technical skill that you've learned at Turing College and that you're using today?
One technical skill will be SQL. I believe as a data analyst is probably the main technical skill you might need to use. Sometimes you might need to use Python, but sometimes some positions do not really require it. But SQL is definitely used to interact with databases, to pull up information, transform it, clean it. Yeah.
It's bread and butter of any data analyst. Out of curiosity, have you already tried any other kinds of databases? I know it's not very popular in many cases for data analysts, but like NoSQL databases, Mongo, ever worked with any of those?
I did not. I have some familiarity with NoSQL, but I did not really use it that much.
I think it's just one thing to keep in mind with every role. There's always so many new things to learn, and what we try to always tell our learners, even when you finish the studies, the learning doesn't stop there. We want everyone to become a lifelong learner. The technologies change. Well, AI is a great example. Everything's changing daily.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say the learning will definitely not stop once you finish the school. The school definitely gives you a basic or the foundation to kickstart your educational career, or educational structure. but you definitely need to always be curious about how things work, because it's impossible to just know everything. So there is always one extra new thing you can learn every day.
All right. And overall, how would you say the whole learning experience transformed your career goals, career opportunities?
So it's been already a year since I started Turing College, almost. And of course, right now I have completely different career goals. I would love to be an analyst, whether it's product analyst or credit risk analyst. I'm still figuring that part out. But I definitely see myself having at least like 80% of the requirement of current junior positions. So that is currently my goal for, I would say, for the next year.
So basically at the stage now of deciding the specialization, which is very relevant in the area.
Yeah.
Looking back at the whole learning experience, would you be able to identify one biggest aha moment, like when something really clicked and it was just satisfying to understand something?
That happened when I finished machine learning sprint with Python. I heard of machine learning before, and it sounded something so foreign to me in the beginning. And just seeing it, how it works in practice with Python, how you feed a model, how you test with data, and how you can make some conclusions. And it was just so fascinating. And I could see definitely how businesses could use it to do some predictive modeling. And I would say, yeah, that was definitely my aha moment.
Did you do a practical project with that? Did you train a model yourself, apply it to something?
Yes, for sure. So with Turing College, we do have one project about predicting coronary heart disease with machine learning. And yeah, during the project, you would have to train a model and then do some testing. And I found it so fascinating doing it with Python.
Okay. Did you get ideas afterwards, maybe some personal projects you would want to do with the skills gained? Have you maybe even done some personal projects afterwards?
Yeah, one thing I would say that I would love to try out with machine learning now that I finished the project would be to see how it could predict revenue for businesses. And let's say we have one sprint related to cohort in Turing College. So I would definitely apply machine learning to something like that and see how it could predict revenue from specific cohorts based on their historical spending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a very useful, popular use case for machine learning models. And there's then just so much depth into it, like which ones you can use, which techniques, how to get the data, a whole world out there. Even more broadly now, what would you say excites you most about AI in general, whether it's data analysis, data science, or the most popular, hyped up LLM things today? What excites you in the industry most?
I would say if that falls into the realm of AI, definitely robots would be something that I found super exciting. I'm super excited and looking forward to see how robot with artificial intelligence would look like and how they could potentially live with humans and facilitate their life and their everyday tasks, and how they could just basically make human lives simpler and easier.
So there was this there is this startup that recently announced pre-orders for home assistant robots who apparently would just take out the trash, do your laundry, things like that. Would you, if you had the chance, would you want to be like one of the first users to try that, to have a robot moving around your house doing chores for you?
I would definitely like to test it. I don't know if I trust it to just be alone and supervised. I've seen some of examples where it just
moves into a TV.
Yeah, or it becomes a risk if left unsupervised. I still don't know if it's like in that stage where it could just do everything by itself, but I think it would be fun to test it out.
Yeah, like what's the worst that could happen? Terminator photo, the movie. Okay. How would you explain to someone outside of data analysis, outside of the tech industry, the importance to learn these tech things today?
I would say things are changing very fast with AI, with using data science, and the foundation of it all is data. So would be very interesting to learn how it works in the background. At least for me, I found it super interesting to know how things work in the background. So a continuous learning and curiosity is definitely needed.
What would you say are the first things you would advise someone to look into and learn if they wanted to get into data analytics?
So the basic technical skills like SQL, Python, but also if you don't want to get into that, you could definitely just learn how to interact with AI and learn some prompt engineering. Of course, you might not know how to double check the results, but yeah, mixed of these plus learning how to prompt engineer, I would say would be essential.
$1 million question in education is how do you see as a learner whether you're using too much of AI in your learning or not enough of AI? Do you have an answer for yourself here? Like, how do you check yourself whether you've been using ChatGPT, let's say, too much in your learning process?
That's a very good question. I'd say if you feel like you have used some brain neurons or not, and whether
it has to be a challenge, basically.
Yeah. So if you feel like you have learned something new while using AI, good, I think you're making progress. But if you have blindly just prompted everything and just copied and did not even double check what was the output, I'd say you probably missed on some learning opportunity there.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would say having this feeling of constantly learning something and at the same time having a feeling of struggling at least a little bit. You cannot learn anything if you're just fully smooth sailing all the way, not how the brains work usually. Okay, any final insights, advices to anyone wanting to either get into the industry or even who recently got into the industry?
I would say challenge yourself every day to learn something new, and try to be curious with all the current innovation and everything that's going on with AI, with data science or data analytics, and challenge yourself, push yourself more. Try to learn a new skill, and yeah, that would be kind of my final take.
Amazing. Thank you. So it was a real pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for this conversation. And if you liked this talk, please remember to subscribe because we will have more learners, other very interesting people talking with us, talking about AI, talking about the industry.